And it looks like we are live, Cory. Welcome to you and to everybody who's tuned in here today. Super excited. Today's topic is creating meaningful connections on LinkedIn. And who better to start off a brand new season of my video podcast, Aspiring Better Human, than with Cory Warfield, who helps people on the platform and off the platform do great things. So, Cory, introduce yourself. I'm super excited to have you here today.
Well, thank you, Will. I'm super excited to be kicking off the new season with you. And I think over the years now on LinkedIn, I have been known to really just be a dot connector. And, someone said I'm an intuitive super connector. I often just kind of know who should probably know whom. But I'll start with kind of a more obscure tip that I don't see too many people implementing and that I don't often talk about publicly as well. And that is LinkedIn is one of the few social media platforms that I'm familiar with that you can actually develop meaningful connections with strangers by using LinkedIn as a search engine. So you can find people that are talking about stuff that you care about. You and myself and others in our world care a lot about kindness. We can find people that are just talking about kindness by just searching for the word kindness and
Right.
filtering to posts and just being supportive, right? Because ultimately it's a networking event. So that's a long-winded way to say that I'm glad to be here and happy to see where the conversation goes.
So, Cory, I think it's been 2 years. So I left my old life 2 years ago. I started to dabble with LinkedIn and other platforms, but mostly LinkedIn. And I met someone who reached out to me by the name Warfield and Erica Warfield. No relation, I know that. And as we were chatting, I was just about ready to be going off to Rio. I spend almost half the year down in my second home of Rio de Janeiro. And Erica said, "You've got to meet Cory. Oh my God, don't you know Cory?" And I was like, "No, I don't know Cory," because I think I had like 4 connections on LinkedIn at the time. And so you were so gracious, took a call. And from the moment we had our first exchange, I just realized, oh, this is like, okay, it's Cory with all of these followers. It's Cory who creates influencers, but it's not, no, Cory, the good guy, Cory, the kind guy. And I've followed you and I've participated in some of the workshops you've done, and you just, you're real, right? That's how I see it. And I think so many people just get overwhelmed by the thought of social media or what to do on LinkedIn. You show people how to do what they need to do. And I think of LinkedIn as that marketplace of ideas. I think if I hadn't been involved from the pandemic post old career, I wouldn't be doing what I do today or interested in the things that I do because I wouldn't have had the exchange of ideas with people, right? So I love the way that you talked about it. It's this big networking event. So I'm curious, how did you, right? I have 3 questions prepared today, but like the first question is, how did you become so huge on LinkedIn, right? Like that's the piece that I'm curious about. You give people tips, but how did you do it? What was your journey?
So I come from the startup world. I've started a number of ventures and help scale some and raise some investment rounds. And I think coming from a hospitality background, where you take care of the guest, and I did that for 20 years, and I was effectively a servant in the castle. And although I waited my last table about 8 years ago, I'm still the guy. I'm filling up someone's water glass at their own house, or I'm clearing the table when we're all done eating. Hi, Mariana. And I think I saw some other people popping in as well.
Yeah, Larry was
But
here too.
oh yeah, there he is. There's Larry. Larry's amazing, and Larry's doing amazing things in the healthcare space. But I digress. For me, it was kind of coming from the hospitality industry and then realizing that the algorithm on LinkedIn was very predictable, and having the startup background of A/B testing everything, right? So it's the only way to split test something is to have a control, to test only one thing at a time, to understand what you're benchmarking. And I realized incredibly quickly that the algorithm was very learnable. I still have a spreadsheet of every post I've ever done on LinkedIn. It's one of my kind of proprietary data
Wow.
points.
Yeah.
And it's funny, I can go back 7 years ago when I was posting and I can see the posts that got quite literally 2 likes and 100 views.
Yeah.
And then you see a couple months later where I have posts getting 100,000 views and 1,000 likes and things like that. And that was all a byproduct of just testing. And once you find something that works, you double down on it, right? And you triple down on it. And it's been interesting over the years. I've seen some big shifts algorithmically. And the only way that you can ever know that a change has been made is by continuing to A/B test. So a couple examples: you used to not be able to put a link to anything in your post itself. You'd have to put it in the comment. Now you can freely put a link to anything in your post that doesn't direct to their competitor, which is Google, right? So as long as you're not taking someone from Microsoft's LinkedIn onto YouTube effectively, then it no longer matters. You also used to not be able to edit your posts. It would be a death sentence. That would be as many views as your post got was as many views as it had when you edited it. It now turns out when you edit a post, it makes it do better. So I say that to say, even years later, I'm still A/B testing, split testing the algorithm, understanding what is and isn't working. And for those watching this, like yourself, even Will, that really have kind of mastered LinkedIn and found a community of people that love you, love to support you, love to share their perspectives. The one thing that I've noticed recently, and I now have it under authority, is that LinkedIn is building their own artificial intelligence, their own large language model. And they don't want it to be informed from data points from the Googles or from the other LLMs, large language models that have been created, even if it's Bing, which is Microsoft's engine, and Microsoft is a majority shareholder now in OpenAI, who makes ChatGPT, but bifurcate those. And when you then realize LinkedIn's creating their own AI that is only going to be informed by data points from verified professionals around the world, they know what industries you're in, they know who you've worked with before, they know what you've done. Now they start to aggregate those data points. Now you can take your networking there to the very next level. Because whether it's art curation, or whether it's raising the vibration of humanity, or helping people who are aspiring better human beings, or whether you're a salesperson looking to try to automate things using some of the new generative AI tools, you find those kind of pockets. And I see you've got something to say. I'll hit the fast forward in a moment, but I bring it back to the networking events. If you think of LinkedIn as a networking event, and it's a global 24/7, 365 networking event that's free, but if you walked around talking to a lot of people and then you saw them later and you didn't remember who they are or what they do, they'd probably be pissed and wouldn't want anything to do with you. So you make sure that you know who you've talked to on the platform at this networking event, and you remember them when you see them later. I have people years later, I remember what we talked about, and maybe that's maybe that's the savant in me, or whatever the other terminologies might be. But I really always come back to that narrative of it's a networking event that's now creating its own AI. And once you understand that, you can really just use it to your advantage and the advantage of everyone in your community.
So what I wanted to add, I mean, there's so much to add. We would need several shows, and I'm going to make 2023, 2024 the years we meet in real life. We're going to do it down in Rio. Okay, I'm going down there soon with my husband. You talk about hospitality, and this is which triggered me to think about the connections in the networking event. Right, I worked in a place where we welcome 7 million people a year. And I did it for so many years, that added up to 150 million people. So numbers and quantity and crowds and numbers are something that drive me and interests me. However, when I was starting to dabble on LinkedIn, you're kind of shy and you're timid. You don't know what to do. Then I meet people like you, and I brought Jordan up, who I've worked with as well, who coach you through it. And what I love about your message and Jordan's message, and there's plenty of other coaches here, my friend Michelle, who is here, I love that we all show up as who we are, right? So I take a course with you, I work with Jordan, I work with Michelle or David, anybody, and I see so many friends here. What I'm loving is the fact that you teach people to show up with what they have to talk about. I love talking about hospitality. I love connecting people. And for me personally, the platform to be able to help others is what drives me more than anything that's like, hey, look at me, right? And so that piece of it, I think, is just incredible. So I become more comfortable on camera, speaking to people, talking. What are the changes that you have seen on the platform, right? You've been doing this for a while. What have you seen, good, bad, ugly? Like you've talked about the AI. What have you seen that has changed for the better and maybe for the not so good, right? If there's such a thing.
So I'm pretty bullish and optimistic on LinkedIn right now. I love that they've really moved to kind of a proof of humanity type of play. I lost 100,000 followers recently, and to their publication, to my understanding, it was dormant and fake accounts.
Right.
And I said from the day one, I never wanted any dormant or fake accounts, so I'm glad they're getting rid of those. And if it meant that some of my vanity metrics suffered a little bit
Right.
short term, that's perfectly fine. I'd much rather have 500,000 real followers than 600,000 and have it be a mixed bag, right? And so, although obviously as a LinkedIn influencer and top voice, I'd love to have 1 million followers someday, but to think that I can know that they're all real people doing real things professionally, and that gives me that much more incentivization to try to help them level up and to understand that I'm really reaching real people, not just bots on a farm somewhere,
Right.
is hugely motivating. So I love to see that step. I'm also really excited to see what their AI holds in store. I have some insights into some of the things they'll be turning their AIs on for that are pretty amazing. And we've seen some of their early AI already start to be introduced in some parts of the platform. But I'd say for me, what's worked well and what continues to work even better and better are the short form videos. And it can be yourself sometimes, although no one's on to watch someone else's TV show inherently. I often say no one's on LinkedIn to learn anything and no one's on LinkedIn to buy anything. So kind of playing into that psychology of the platform is really important. But what I love to do is I love to find accounts on other platforms that are creating really great content that's on brand for me. Typically, it'll be around sustainability, innovation, exploration, things of that nature. And what I'll do is I'll reach out and say, hey, I'd love to highlight your work on LinkedIn, where most of them typically aren't as active. And I'll say, I'd love to give you full attribution, and I'd love to encourage people to follow you on Instagram or on YouTube, wherever they might be. And most of the time, people say yes. And that not only opens up a trove of content for me that I don't need to put production and post-production into and all of these things. Often they're cleared for copyright, so I'm able to use them. It's brought me into so many great opportunities. I have a company called Interesting Engineering that I love. They've got 2.5 million subs on Insta. They've got 2.5 million followers on LinkedIn. I reached out to them to say, hey, I love your content. I'd love to share it. They said, hey, we're a fan of yours as well. Of course you can share it, but let's talk about doing something else. And so now we have a co-branded venture that's going to be coming out soon. Right. And that's just from wanting to share their content and asking for permission. I see a lot of people that don't ask for permission, and that can put you in some precarious situations.
Right.
I've seen people's accounts and posts compromised. But other than that, these short form posts, the video posts, do incredible. And I know you often do like the side of the building, the billboards and stuff like that, which are really inspirational and super on brand for you. And I think people read that and it helps change their day and their perspective and their dynamic. But I'll give you an example. I think 5 days ago, I posted a video from an account that I had permission to share from. And the video itself was pretty cool. It's about a hydrogen car that's going to be coming out and some of the innovations there. That post in 5 days has getting close to 3 million views. It has over 11,000 likes. And so, I'm like you, I'm a numbers guy, but I'm not a vanity metrics guy. But let's talk about what 3 million views and 11,000 likes does on a post. That means almost 3 million people so far, and this will probably double. It'll probably get closer to 10 million views, are going to see my headline, right? They're going to see at this point, I think
and what you do, who you are, right?
That's it, right? And so now there's the social proof of this guy who creates LinkedIn influencers as a post that you can see 11,000 likes on, and it's been shared over 1,000 times. And that to me is how you take the networking event to the next level. Is you do want to lean into some of the social proof. You do want to show that whatever it is you say you're great at, you're great at. So for me, if I say I'm great at LinkedIn, I have to be able to prove that. And thank God I've kind of got it figured out. So the proof is in the pudding.
You gave me that advice. I think the first time I spoke to you, and we've talked over the last couple of years, and I've worked with other coaches as well. It's like, yeah, you seem like a good guy, but what do you do? And I've been spending the last couple of years trying to figure out what I wanted to do and who I wanted to be. And when I left Rio last fall, these conversations that I had with you and others, I was like, well, I'm back in New York, and I really want to do what I used to do: hospitality. I want to get out there, work with organizations that I've known my entire career. I change my banner. I change my story. I'm New York City's guest experience advisor. And boom, it happened. Why? Like you said, it's a networking event. People that I'd worked with in the past, people who've known me, it was like, I thought you moved to Rio. I didn't know you did that. I thought you retired. And so you use the platform, right? You use the real estate to let people know who you are and what you do. And
That's right.
that piece of advice, well, I'm like you, I'm not in the game for all these numbers to just say this many people follow me or this many people watch. But I'm in the game because I learn from people like you, and I'm out there telling people this is what I do. And it's turned into a client base. It's turned into a business. And that's what's super, super exciting. The last thing I'd say about it, too, for anybody who may be a little hesitant to post and create content and do their own thing, um, do it from within, right? You see, I do inspirational quotes and encouraging quotes because as that coach, that person who builds teams, that's what I'm trying to do all day long with all my clients. Lift people up, look on the bright side. You know what it's like, Cory, working with the public. It's not always easy. You're dealing with customers, you're in a busy spot. So I try to just kind of use the platform to talk about the things that lift me up, get people to go from negative to maybe not so negative. And that drives me, which makes me a better in-person coach. It makes me a
Well,
better online coach, right?
Well, I will take it a step further, and I will suggest and postulate that your presence on LinkedIn has already made the world a better place. I bet there are days where there are hundreds of people around the world that needed a little attitude adjustment or just a little
Right,
reason to smile or have a little bit more hope or be a little bit nicer.
right,
And some of your posts go crazy viral. To reach
yeah,
that many people around the world with a
right,
message of positivity, hope, and inspiration on a daily basis is massive. And one of the things that you've done incredibly well, and I encourage anybody watching this to just question if they're doing it well as well, and if not, maybe it's good to see how you can change that a little bit, is you've built a brand around kindness and inspiration. And what that does is everyone wants to work with someone who's kind and inspiring.
right.
So, when you're not looking for a job for 8 months, people are going, wow, this is the kind of guy I want to work with. If I'm not mistaken, it didn't take you but a couple of days of changing,
Exactly.
right? Because people are hungry for that. People
Right,
want, so this is an opportunity anybody watching this has, is to really be considerate of the
right,
brand that you're building.
right.
You never know who's watching, but what you can guarantee is that on a platform of 900 million professionals around the world, that there will be people watching, no matter who you are, what you do.
You just thank you for those kind words. But what you just said is part of the reason why I love doing this, right? It's lifting others up. We live in a negative world. It's always problems to be fixed. It's always sharing of the negative. And so when I decided, and I've shared this with you and others, and I talk about this, when I left my old life at the Met, I wanted to be a brand new person. And I tried to just reinvent myself. It just didn't work because every conversation went to, well, you worked at the Met, and I loved working at the Met. So when I went deep down inside, I'd realized, well, what was it about that? It was about connecting to the people. It was about connecting to the team. It was about the hospitality. And you're so right. When I realized that, okay, let me change my banner. Let me tell people what it is I really want to do. Boom, the booking started to happen, the multiple outreach, because people just thought, okay, yeah, he's posting nice things or he's trying to be uplifting. When you're intentional about It's not about the selling, right, Corey? I'm not out there to sell a program. I'm not out there to sell what I do, but I talk about what I do. And those that are interested, and most of the times, the people that are reaching out, I would say all of the times actually, are not even people who were necessarily commenting every single day, or they're not participating every single day. And you just don't know who's watching. So the idea that I was in an organization that could welcome 5 million, 7 million people a year. And then when you look at the stats, I'm a stats person, but I do not keep statistics on what I post. In a year's time, my posts could get 5 million impressions. So to your earlier point, like, wow, I get to be part of something that can welcome 7 million people a year. And then I'm just trying to be as creative as I possibly can on a platform without even knowing what I'm doing. And I can reach 5 million people.
You can reach almost as many people as the Met as an
Right.
individual
Yeah.
without any of the bureaucracy, without any of the right. I mean, it is,
Yes.
and it's not that there's no
Yeah.
competition,
No.
but similarly, I'm reaching 50,
Right.
60 million people a year as well, and to have that type of a platform is
Exactly.
just, especially when you have an optimized brand and you know what your message is and people know what you stand for, and it's pretty phenomenal at this point. Not too long ago I said, you know what, I want to start to monetize subtly, but I like every post of mine to make at least 500 and upwards of 5,000 or more dollars. And in that time, I've had posts that I've been paid $5,000 to do. I've had posts that have brought me multiple coaching clients, which
That's great.
my coaching is 5,000 in and of itself. So imagine a post that brings in 2 clients, right?
Right.
And that's off of one post. And to
Right.
your point, I've never sold hard.
Right.
However, you have to talk about what you're doing, because if not, then there's a disconnect. People are wondering, again, to your earlier point, well, you're a nice guy, but what do you do?
Right.
If you were at a networking event and someone was walking around being the world's nicest person, but they wouldn't even let you know what it is that they did if you asked them,
Right.
you wouldn't trust them.
Right.
You might
Right.
like them, you might have a martini with them, but you wouldn't have
Right.
them over. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? You're not going to introduce them to your inner circle because you don't know what they've got up their sleeve. And so, one of the strongest things someone can do on LinkedIn is to be very clear about what either their superpower is, or what their offering is, why they're doing what they're doing, and ultimately, you should believe as a professional that whatever you're doing is making the world a bit better.
Right.
And if not, you should find a different profession, because there's only so much time that we have to commit as human beings on earth this time around to being professional. And if we can use that to make the world a better place or not, I'd probably argue that we have a responsibility to
Right.
have it be the latter.
Going back to what you said earlier, which really is part of my personal journey, was that I worked at a huge global iconic place like the Met, right? People from around the world know the Met, they understand the Met, and I was part of that. But like you said, there's bureaucracy and it's big, and you go through steps and you're working with different departments. It's just the way any large organization is. So being freed of that and being able to choose the colors I want to use for a logo, to work with people to build a website, to create my own link tree, that opened up doors for me personally, and I think it can help other people who may be listening, to just go out there and experiment. You talked about at the very beginning, the A/B testing. I was someone who I didn't go for that kind of testing because I was so conditioned to going through 6 different departments, 3 other approval process, and then have the lawyers look at it, right? And no offense to anybody out there who's a lawyer. I have very good friends who are lawyers, but it's not the same thing as when you get to do something on a platform like LinkedIn and you get to experiment and try and test. You will, and you know this, Cory, you learn more about yourself. You start to learn about the things that make you tick. You start to see what people are responding to, and that's inspiration that comes to you that you didn't even necessarily know you were looking for, right? Like that post or that statement, or what was it about this that made it go viral? Or what was it about this that people really responded to? And I think that when you can do it on your own and you can have a platform like LinkedIn, there's something magical about that. And
Well,
it's opened me up in so many ways, even personally.
and here's a word I would ascribe to that is freedom, right? The
Freedom.
freedom that
Right.
that can afford you and that that can provide for an individual is, frankly, I think what most people are seeking. It can introduce financial freedom, but it can also introduce just freedom to be yourself, to support things that you support and people that you want to support, ideologies that you want to support. Um, it is really amazing what can happen, especially when you're willing to get a little bit out of your comfort zone and a little outside of your echo chamber, your bubble as well. Um, so yeah, I mean, I think we're very very aligned. No surprise there, but I would just really encourage people listening to this that have been a little bit more reticent on LinkedIn to just put themselves out there. I've never seen it go badly.
I'm mindful of the time. We have about 5 minutes left, and we've talked about this. My final question that I'll bring up on the screen, I really wanted to know, you've talked about this, but what's the one thing that you want the listener here to take away? Like, you're in the elevator, that elevator pitch. What are you going to tell somebody to do here on this platform?
So I've got two things. One is one I've said 100 times, but I love it. But the other one right now, and I'm sure this will land differently with different people. But if I had to give advice to any stranger on the earth that I think could change their life, it would be to learn AI right now. It's so intuitive and easy. You don't need a user manual. There's no excuse to not play with it. It's free. You can ask it how to use itself. I've seen people use AI to do everything from build highly converting websites to writing really good books to creating short movies that go viral. I've seen people use AI to create their personal brands to get their dream jobs. So for me, it's as easy as just you know
And that's
logging
that
in.
chat. It's that app that we can download on any of the platforms, right? The
ChatGPT, and yeah,
chat.
they have a official mobile app from OpenAI. They've got a website, but there's so many different ones. There's an AI called Pi, created by Inflection AI, which was Reid Hoffman, the founder of LinkedIn. That's emotionally intelligent. You can just talk to it like it's a therapist or a counselor or a job counselor or a friend. But there are so many AIs, and again, almost all of them are free to use, and almost all of them you can just ask it how to use itself. I see
Wow.
people using AI to do their taxes, to raise money. I've seen people get multi-million-dollar grants using
So
AI.
I'm cutting you off because this is super exciting. Traditional media, you watch traditional media out there, folks like myself who are not using AI, the message that's coming is it's bad, it's scary, it's the end of civilization, no more jobs. How do you convince? And I don't believe that. I'm curious to learn more. How do you talk to people about not being afraid of something new?
Well, the good news is people will always be hungry for things that came from other humans, and people will always place a premium on things that were not generated. So there will always be a market for and a place for things that are non-generated by AI. But with that said, I'll I'll bring this right back to being optimistic, but I believe very sincerely and solemnly that AI will have the capability of replacing absolutely every job that a human's ever had to do within the next 18 months. I
Wow.
see surgeons, I see doctors, I see construction workers, I see self-balancing robots that can fly. I mean, there's nothing that I don't think AI can do better than humans in a work capacity very shortly. But my thesis there is that AI can take our jobs, but it doesn't need our paychecks. It doesn't need vacations. It doesn't need to eat fine foods. Right? I mean, there's nothing that it needs from a resource standpoint. And if we use it as the tools that it's built for to help humanity, I believe that we'll see things like a human life expectancy of upwards of 1,000 years instead of 100 years. I believe that we're going to see interplanetary travel, space tourism, and things of that nature. I think we're going to be able to inhabit much more of the earth. I think that there's so much when you look at artificially intelligent nanobots, even that can go through the body and cure cancers. I lost both my parents to cancer. So to me, that's an incredibly exciting prospect. But I think there's enough reason now to not tune into the negative narrative. And Universal Basic Income has 155 active pilots. I'm a part of some of them. All of the data has come back that UBI reduces mental health issues. It increases productivity. People will be able to do anything that they want, and if that makes them and their culture and society more money, great. And if not, great too. As long as they don't need that, I think as long as it's not just a mindset of abundance mentality. It's that there truly is more than enough to go around. And if people no longer need to file paperwork or check boxes on a piece of paper or get in a car with a teenager to teach them how to drive, right? Then I think we can probably consider that a net positive. But to get a little bit away from the tech, to answer your question about an elevator, I have one thing, and if this person doesn't care to hear me say learn AI because it's free and easy and you can make multiple six figures within months if you learn it, which I would say. But the other one, and although I've said it before, I think it's very germane to our conversation. I encourage everyone, and I always give the stipulation that myself is included. I tell myself this as well. I need to hear it every day, but is to love more. We can all love more. We can love strangers more. We can love people that don't agree with us more. We can love people that are outwardly or inwardly hurting more. We can love ourselves much more. And the more that we love, right, inwardly, outwardly, the more love there is in this world. And there's only ones and zeros in this binary world that we live in. And there's always either love or hate. And as individuals, we can bring love or hate into this world at any given moment. But when we do that en masse, and when we do that intentionally, and when we really choose to embrace and tune in to the love that is possible, that's where I see, all the things coming together for glory and for good. Is it the best way to reach me?
I really want to have you back, or definitely we're going to have this conversation in Rio for sure.
We'll do both. Yeah, we'll do both.
Super excited. But people who want to work with you, I'm going to
give my last hack, and this is what really made me who I am on LinkedIn. If you message me on LinkedIn or engage with me there's a chance that I'll miss that just because I get hundreds and thousands of those a day. But if you reach out to me on Facebook or on Twitter or on Instagram, I will see it because, I don't want to be self-deprecating and say I'm nobody there, but I've got a couple thousand followers on those platforms. If I get a message on Facebook, I'm going to see it. So, and that's the way you can get on almost any influencer's radars. I mean, even take someone like Mr. Beast, who's got 100 million subs on YouTube. He's a bad example because he doesn't run his own social accounts. But, as a concept, if you reached out to him on Facebook, he'd probably be thousands of times more likely to see that and be responsive than on YouTube. So people should be able to find me on any platform. Also, my email address is one I've had for 20 years. It's corythewineguy@gmail.com. If anyone wants to learn more about my masterclass product or my one-on-one coaching, I check my emails religiously. So that's CORY, the wine guy. And frankly, if someone wants to message me on WhatsApp, I'm 312-342-0786. And as long as you mention Will, I'll know that you're friendly, and I'll be responsive there as well.
That's great. Well, Cory, thank you. 30 minutes go so quickly. I really hope those who listened today or watching the replay or listen to this elsewhere will take something away, because you mentioned love. I talk about kindness. Same things, right? They're related. They're all connected. And imagine if people built more businesses and did more of what you do, what I'm doing, and just come from this place of gratitude and this grace of this place of helping other people. We could solve so many problems in our small communities, and then that has that ripple effect. So I appreciate you, my friend, mi amigo. I'm obrigado, and I'm looking forward to meeting you in real life this year.
We will make it happen. And I saw one of your funny videos about the Portuguese language, and so we'll just say, gente, nossa, 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 gente.
That's muito bem, muito bem. I'm really looking forward to seeing how your wife and my husband watch us with our Portuguese. I think it'll be fun. It'll be fun.
It will be. Well, first of all, congrats on a new season. Secondly, thank you for having me. And thirdly, thank you to everybody that's watching this. I'm seeing messages already come into my WhatsApp. I'll be sure to check all of those as well.
You'll be a busy guy this afternoon. Take care, Cory. And thank you, everyone. You know where to find me every Wednesday, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on LinkedIn. Talk to you soon.